yesterday that said that they would work with us to achieve what he views as his mutual goal. He wants his own people to stay in his own country. He gets it in ways the previous government down there didn't, and I'm hopeful we can work together to achieve America's goal along our southern border.
What did he say about the amount of money that I know we've been giving them money, and then the president has said he doesn't want to give them money anymore because they're letting their folks leave their country and come into ours, and he doesn't want to fund it anymore? Did that come up in conversation?
You know, it's remarkable. You should go look at the press conference that we held together. He said, I didn't ask the Secretary of State for a penny. That's America's money. Indeed, I think he said it would be tacky to ask us for money. He understands whose responsibility this is. This is really different and important, and I think demonstrates President Bukele and his team, and frankly, the people of El Salvador's understanding that they want to grow and take care of their own country.
Right. Mr. Secretary, on Friday, the Democrats, led by Chuck Schumer, went down to our southern border. Our Vice President Mike Pence went down, I think, a week earlier. Now Mr. Schumer has come back and said that the Senate must pass the Stop Cruelty to Migrant Children bill. The president tweeted out that he wants to meet with Mr. Schumer ASAP. Both sides now say it's a crisis, and it's really bad down there. But realistically, politically, is there a chance anything will get changed? Those laws that you were talking about a little while ago, any chance between now and November 2020, will there be a change in the law?
Yeah, Steve, I hope so. I can understand why the American people would find it way too optimistic to believe there'll be any change. But I've often found when American people demand things, when there is a real crisis, I think both parties can see that there is this real crisis along our southern border. We have to keep it secure. I was in El Salvador, where MS-13 is headquartered, if you will. It's the central locus of MS-13. And we talked about the risk that creates in their country and the enormous risk we know too well in the United States of America. We watch drug trafficking. We watch young girls being trafficked across the border. I think Democrats now have come to understand this is a real crisis, and I hope people from all across the political spectrum will join to resolve this problem.
Mr. Secretary, one of the main focuses you have is Iran. The sanctions have forced them to take extreme actions, including going after civilian tankers. And now we saw, and they televised this, and they put out the video of them coming from a chopper, going down ropes, fast ropes, into a tanker and taking a British ship, seized the British tanker. What's America's role in getting that back?
So the responsibility in the first instance falls to the United Kingdom to take care of their ships. But Brian, you know this story. This isn't because of American sanctions. This is because the theocracy, the leadership in Iran, their revolutionary zeal to conduct terror around the world for now 4 decades continues. This is a bad regime. It's not honoring the people of Iran. They've now conducted what amounts to national piracy, right? A nation state taking over a ship that's traveling in international waters. This is the kind of behavior we've seen out of Iran for 40 years. The United States has a responsibility to do our part, but the world's got a big role in this too, to keep these sea lanes open.
Sure. I'm
convinced we'll do that, and I'm ultimately convinced that the Iranian people will get the leadership behavior that they so richly deserve.
Mr. Secretary, do you think our lack of action 2 weeks ago has emboldened the Iranians? They think they can get away with anything because they got away with taking out a $200 million drone and saw very little repercussion.
No, I don't think that's the case at all. I think the leadership in Iran understands that America has the capacity to respond in ways that will protect American interests around the world. The president made the decision that he wanted to respond in a way that was restrained and prudent. I don't think Iran took this as a green light. I think I've seen intelligence that would indicate that. They understand that America is powerful. You've seen us move a few increased resources into the region. You've seen us respond in ways that are restrained. We don't want war with Iran. We want them to behave like a normal nation. Sure. I think they understand that, and I think the whole world is waking up to the fact that this threat is real. It's not just a threat against America. It's not just a threat against Israel. It's a threat against all of us.
Mr. Secretary, as the world wakes up today on this Monday, there's a story out that Iran's intel ministry says that they uncovered a U.S. CIA spy ring. They've arrested 17 suspects and sentenced some to die. I know it's a breaking story. I don't know that Fox News has confirmed it yet, but what can you tell us about that?
I can't add much to it specifically, having had the chance to lead that great organization, the Central Intelligence Agency. I would urge everyone who's reading that story waking up to understand that the Iranian regime has a long history of lying. They lied about where they shut down the American UAV. They've now lied in the last few days about where they took down this tanker. It's part of the nature of the Ayatollah to lie to the world. I would take with a significant grain of salt any Iranian assertion about actions that they've taken.
So you don't believe that they have arrested these individuals? If these are Americans, we want to bring them home. We don't want them put to death, obviously.
Well, Ainsley, there are many Americans that have been held, detained inside the Islamic Republic of Iran. It goes far back as Bob Levinson. So there's a long list of Americans that we are working to get home from the Islamic Republic of Iran. This is a nation, as I talked about before, for 40 years has behaved in ways that normal nations don't. You don't take other country citizens and hold them hostages for political gain. I think this is just further evidence of the outlaw nature of the Iranian regime.
And, Mr. Secretary, there's a report today there's about 1,000 ISIS fighters back in Iraq wreaking havoc, setting up snipers. What is our role in making sure ISIS doesn't take Iraq and force us to go back in there in greater numbers?
Look, we've been very successful over the last, now I guess it's 2.5 years, to build out a global coalition to defeat ISIS. We've had 60 countries working this. We were successful at taking down the real estate they own, the caliphate that they had in Syria and in western Iraq. But President Trump's been very clear. Where we find the threat from the Islamic Republic of Iran, where we find the threat from Iran, America will respond. We know that terror continues to exist around the world, and America could do this. We can end these endless wars while still making sure that we fight the fight against terror every place that we find it. We'll do it with American power, and we'll do it importantly using our partners and friends around the world who have a shared interest in defeating this terrorism.
So you can confirm that ISIS is back in Iraq?
Well, look, we've said there have been ISIS fighters moving around Iraq, and there's still a handful of them left in Syria as well. They're not completely gone. They've shown no evidence that they're prepared to give up, Ryan, and we've shown no evidence that we're prepared to let them get away with terror either. And President Trump's made very clear, we're going to continue to beat back terror where we find it.
Real quick exit question. A couple of weeks ago, we saw the president shake hands with Kim Jong-un. Anything going on since then behind the scenes we need to know about?
The State Department's had a number of conversations with the North Koreans. Chairman Kim committed to getting our teams back to the negotiating table. I hope that we will. I hope when they show up, they take a position that's different. This is a simple task in the sense of Chairman Kim made a commitment. He put it in writing in Singapore. He said he was prepared to denuclearize. We've had a number of conversations left. It's time to begin to deliver on that so that the North Korean people can, in fact, have that brighter future.
Democrats ramping up the fight for $15 an hour as House Democrats pass a bill to raise the federal minimum wage. Our next guest blasting this as bad economics in a new video that's gone viral. Here to talk more about it and to lay it out, Republican Congressman Dan Crenshaw. Congressman, you're astounded at this push out of the House for $15 minimum wage because no one's seeing around the corner. What bothers you about it?
Well, it's shallow thinking. You know, it's ill-conceived policy. It feels good. It's emotionally driven, but it doesn't actually do any good. And they're not thinking of the second and third order consequences of a $15 minimum wage. And you know, this has been debunked over and over and over again by economists. Okay, it's bad for economics, and it's also bad because it's a one-size-fits-all policy from the federal level. Economically speaking, it causes job loss. The CBO estimates that up to 3.7 million jobs, 3.7 million jobs would be lost under this kind of bill. And it's not hard to understand why. When a business is faced with a new minimum wage, well, their entire budget for salaries and payroll doesn't change. So they have to make changes themselves. They might have to cut hours and they might have to fire people. So while some people get a small incremental increase, others get a 100% decrease in their wage because that's what happens when you fire them. The other thing you have to think about is, why are we doing this from the federal level?
Yep.
Costs of living are vastly different across the country. In San Francisco, rent is about $4,500 a month. In Lubbock, Texas, it's about $700 a month. Okay, you don't have the same minimum wage in both places. You need to allow municipalities and counties to make that decision for themselves.
But now you're in the political world, Dan. You're not in the practical world. And if you could be part of telling people I'm giving you more money, That's what you care about. But business owners should speak up. They should get together and understand they're not being selfish. They're trying to survive. And if they survive, more people are employed. Meanwhile, the man who's behind the $15 minimum wage, Bernie Sanders, for example, in case you forgot, here's Bernie being Bernie.
Raise the minimum wage to a living wage.
Raise that minimum wage to $15 an hour.
We should raise the minimum wage.
And guess what? Bernie Sanders, you know, the socialist who happens to be, turns out he's a millionaire. It turns out he's not even paying his staff minimum wage. This is according to the Des Moines Register.
Is the best part.
Yeah, he has now adjusted. He's going to give them $15, but cut back his hours for his people. Here it is, the quote. Sanders said field organizers who are the lowest ranking members of the presidential campaign and typically in their 20s, making $36,000 a year with 100% employee paid health care, as well as paid vacation and sick leave for staffers working 40 hours a week. That comes out to $17 an hour, but 40-hour work weeks on presidential campaigns are rare. So Sanders said the campaign will limit the number of hours staffers work to 42 or 43 each week to ensure they're making an equivalent $15 an hour. He just said exactly what you said.
Right. You know, it's you got to laugh at this a little bit. I mean, when this kind of poetic justice where this ill-conceived policy gets manifested right before your very eyes. And I wonder who could have predicted this. Well, anybody with an economics degree would have predicted this. So it doesn't help the people you're trying to help. In some cases, it hurts them because, remember, a lot of these people at a minimum wage are adding to their household income. And if they're priced out of the labor market, they can no longer add that income to their household. So a household that was not in poverty could potentially be in poverty. And they've studied this at the CBO as well. It's really, really bad policy overall.
It's like when Obamacare says if you have a certain amount of employees, you have to give health care. Well, certain companies can't afford it, so they want one person underneath the threshold.
Right.
They don't understand businesses
it's
will adjust. So I got to bring it to something else. As you know, the squad works where you work in the House, just on the other side of the aisle, and sometimes even separate from Democratic leadership. Okay, most of the time. Listen to the latest call for action from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez when it comes to what's going on at the border.
We cannot allow this administration to define immigration policy for the United States. But this is something that I think is going to have to take a 9/11 style commission. They were charged with investigating and making sure they dug up every nook and cranny of what happened and how it happened in our system.
So she wants a 9/11 style investigation of things at the border. All they have to do is look at the House and Senate and find out why the asylum laws haven't been changed. But you're a witness. Do you want this investigation?
No, listen, the reason they want something like this is to add fuel to the fire. Okay, they want to keep this in the news. Notice that they never come up with a solution.
Never.
When they talk about the overcrowded facilities, they never have a solution. They don't have a solution for our immigration system. They say it shouldn't be defined by the administration. Well, we do have laws right now. Okay, Code 1325 that says you can't illegally cross the border. That's immigration policy set by Congress. It's a law in place. We need to enforce it. So the fact that, the administration is not making this up as they go. They actually are following the laws. But what they don't want is solutions. What they really want is more commissions like this, more investigations that they can point to and call the president evil. That's what they want.
The president said Senator Schumer, he was encouraged that Senator Schumer saw how bad things were at the border. He wants a meeting and maybe get Congress to act. What's the reality, being that you're going on vacation in a couple of days?
Well, I can't say that I'm hopeful because I'm worried that the Democrats like this crisis too much. I am worried as I've seen them fight against every single, even the smallest measures to help fix our immigration problem they fight against, right? They don't want walls. They don't want fix to the asylum loopholes. They're talking about decriminalizing illegal border crossings. I had an amendment the other day that would have just collected data on crimes in sanctuary cities. They said no to that. I'm like, wow, we can't build physical barriers. We can't do internal enforcement. They get mad when we try to deport criminals, and we can't collect data. If that's not open borders, I really don't know what is, and I don't like accusing people of wanting open borders, but that does seem to be the debate that we're having.
Congressman, it's pretty clear your mission, if you want the power to do the things you're saying, is to get back the House, and it's going to be a matter of organization. And
Here, loved it.
It turns out the bride and groom, huge fans of the president. They even had flags and pro-Trump banners at the reception.
Here with more are those newlyweds. Say hello to Nicole and PJ Mangelli. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so about the time you got engaged, you were talking about where would we have the reception, and you decided Trump National in Bedminster, New Jersey.
Yes.
Why?
We are huge Trump supporters. We always have been. We didn't even have to think twice about having it anywhere else. We went there. The Trump staff there is incredible. And that was it.
PJ, describe the day. What happened? How did you get the president to come?
Describe the day. It was monumental. You know, it was such a beautiful thing. He came during the cocktail hour, and then I asked him. I says, President Trump, I said, you got to do me a favor. I said, we have about 230 people that want to sing God Bless America to you, and he's like, you know, let me see what I could do.
Obviously, he's a busy man.
You know, it's just the president, you know. And for him to come, not once, but twice,
It's incredible.
it was just such a beautiful thing. It just shows the character he has.
Yes.
So what was the response from all your friends and family? Did they have a sense this could happen?
We were hoping, since it's his golf club, but the response was amazing. The energy in that whole ballroom was unbelievable. Even the waiters and waitresses and staff said they've never seen a wedding with such amazing energy. So it was really, really nice.
And you did invite him.
We did. We sent him
Not
an
once,
invitation.
many
times.
invitations.
He did not crash
Showed
our
up to
wedding.
get you off his back.
Well,
Exactly.
you know, just
You know what's so amazing is a lot of people look at their schedule and find out what's going to be best for you. You probably you schedule this around summits and the G2 and the G20 to make sure that there's a chance of getting it,
It
right?
was amazing. Yes.
Were
Yes.
there people that were there that didn't vote for him or weren't supporters of him but were still excited? Like, what was the reaction from?
Mostly everyone.
yeah. You know, there's a few, but you know,
There's a
it's
couple, but the leader of the free world is at our wedding. And even though we're
That's
very
what they
proud,
focused on.
yes, we're proud Trump supporters, but most importantly, we're all very proud Americans.
Yeah.
So
what is it about Donald Trump that has turned you into such avid fans?
you got about 20 minutes I can talk. Yeah, I mean,
Give us the
but
highlight.
he's for the American people. He wants to keep us safe. He wants to keep us working. Why wouldn't you want to support that? Why wouldn't you want to support that? And if the left comes a little bit in the middle and a little bit more to the right, this country would be unstoppable.
Y'all picked the perfect people. I mean, clearly, politics is something y'all talk about in your house.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me, how did y'all meet? What's your story?
we actually, we grew up on Staten Island, and Staten Island is a very close-knit community. We knew each other for a very long time. We kind of rekindled on Facebook, and it's been about 7 years since we've been together officially, and we just hit it off again.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
PJ, what did the president say to you? He took a look at you, and what did he say to you?
He looked at me and said, oh, look at those shoulders. I said, wow. He says, I had a couple extra donuts before, you know what I mean? But I said, I just couldn't believe he was just
Nobody's gonna mess with you.
That's what he
Nobody's
said.
going to
No one's
mess
gonna
with
know.
me.
Yeah, he loves that. He came into the bridal
I
suite.
protect him better than most,
Yeah.
just like I protect her. Nobody would come near her,
He came
my
in, he
president.
said, I heard there's a beautiful bride in the room. It was so sweet. We were
Called me
just-
handsome. I says, wow.
Yeah.
I says, I said,
Sounds like he wants your vote.
hey, no.
No, he knew
I
he had
just-
our votes. He doesn't need to.
He'll
buy
always
our-
have my vote.
Yeah.
Now, will you honeymoon in a Scottish golf club? I mean, where are you going to honeymoon?
I wish we were going there.
St. Lucia.
We're going to St. Lucia. So
Okay.
yeah.
Leaving tomorrow morning,
Yes.
hopefully.
Yeah.
Wait, are you going to Sandals?
I'm going to
Going to
Sandals.
Sandals.
Are you going to Sandals?
Yes.
Yes.
They
Yes.
sponsor our concert
Yes.
series on Friday, so
Oh, beautiful
Oh,
thing.
Yes.
Very nice. Okay.
Yeah, mention our name. We'll make it an open
maybe
bar.
you'll get a free drink.
Oh,
give me the
perfect.
clip and then I'll just tell them, you know.
What, since it happened since the president came to your reception on Saturday night, how has your life changed aside from being married?
Well, our phones have been blowing up.
It's been nonstop.
And we're just
nonstop.
We're just amazed, and it's very surreal. I feel like we're dreaming.
You know, you never know. He could be watching right now.
Well, President Trump, I love you.
We love you.
We love you.
And we hope to someday be a guest at one of your events.
Yes.
And keep up the good fight. Keep up the
We
good
pray.
it's
fight.
going to be a great story for your kids one day.
yes.
Maybe you can
Just-
make him the Godfather.
Oh, that would be sure.
Right.
We would
Oh, that
happily
would-
make him the Godfather.
100%. But I'm going to have the christening in baptism.
Yeah, hopefully we can have the
Trump
christening
National.
back there.
Did he send you a gift yet? You know, he has a year.
Well,
has a year.
He
better do the right
actually,
thing.
well, he actually wrote on our save the date. Somebody at Trump National gave him our save the date, and he
Yes.
actually signs it and wrote a very nice note on it for us.
That's
so
great.
it was really.
What are you going to do with
special.
that?
Frame it, I guess.
Keep it forever.
Keep it forever. Really cherish it.
Nicole, PJ, congratulations.
God
Thank you so
guys
much.
so much.
Have a great
Thank
holiday.
Thank you.
God bless you
God
and
bless
give you
you
lots
guys.
of
God bless
beautiful
you too.
lightning strikes near Clearwater, and this is the last 24 hours. I believe that Florida has the most lightning strikes per state in the U.S. I'll have to check that, but we could see the potential for lightning and severe storms today along a cold front that's going to bring some relief across much of the country. We hit record highs across portions of the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. Look at the temperatures, 61 in Minneapolis, 65 in Chicago, and that cold front is going to move into the eastern seaboard over the next 24 to 48 hours. Forecast heat index. We're still dealing with warm temperatures across the mid-Atlantic back towards the southeast, but that cold front is going to dip as far south as parts of the southeast and the Gulf Coast. So that is much relief that we will take. 74 will be your daytime high in New York City, and we could see the potential for some heavier rainfall and the potential for flooding as the cold front moves through. So good news is we've got colder air. Bad news is we could see the potential
day of protest, but this particular protest march is starting here at the baseball stadium, the Adam Beathorn Baseball Stadium. Now, this is what happened. Essentially, yesterday, Ricardo Rosselló held a Facebook Live. He didn't have a press conference to take questions. He went on Facebook Live and said that he is not going to seek re-election in 2020, and he is resigning as president of his party. Well, people here, well, that just added fuel to the fire. People are really upset about that. They want him to resign now. We spoke to Jeanette. She's a retired teacher on the island. This is what she had to say.
We want him to resign. We want him to go because this is our dignity. But when I heard that message, I said, no, Janet Soto Rivera is coming with her family and her.
Yeah, they really want him to go. Now, this is what happened about 10 days ago. Ricardo Rosselló and 11 of his aides had this group chat that was leaked. 889 pages of offensive messages, misogynistic, homophobic, you name it. That was just the tip of the iceberg. You add that with the fact that 2 of his top lieutenants were arrested by the FBI for steering some $15 million into the hands of unqualified private contractors. And now you have what has been the beginning of a protest. They plan on here really spending all day getting in front of the major highways here and blocking things, and that's going to be what we're going to be seeing all day, guys. Back to you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Brian. You know, it seems like the president was right. There is a lot of corruption in Puerto Rico, and the Puerto Rican people know they've not been well taken care of by their government. That's why the president was reluctant to write just blanket aid checks there.
But after the hurricane, we wanted to help them, but some people are going, where did all that money go? A lot of it is unaccounted for. Mike Huckabee is former Republican presidential candidate. He was governor of Arkansas, Fox News contributor, and author of a great book called Rare, Medium, or Well Done, Make the Most of Your Life. Mike, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, so we just heard Brian Yinnis reporting from Puerto Rico, talking about how the people there at the protest want the governor to resign. And then you've got some Democrats. We got some of their comments. Tulsi Gabbard said we must stand up against corruption. AOC says the governor must resign. Julian Castro said, I stand with the Puerto Ricans in the streets protesting for his resignation. What do you have to say about their comments squared against what is going on down there?
Well, the first thing they need to do is to apologize to President Trump.
Exactly.
Because he was right. He said that he had sent the aid, which he did, in record supplies, and then he was called of being a racist by these very people who are now saying, oh, this government has to go. Let's remember, they were the ones who said that he hadn't done anything because he was a racist. Well, the truth is, he's not a racist. He did send the supplies, but the corrupt government of Puerto Rico ended up letting it just sit on the docks and rot. In some cases, there were contracts that were given to people who weren't qualified to do it. I think the next thing the president needs to send to Puerto Rico is more FBI agents, because he certainly did everything he said he would do, and they owe him an apology.
Okay, so the governor said he's not going to resign. He's not going to step down. Some are questioning whether or not that's about money. He wants to get his pension, but he's not going to run again. Let's move on to Liz Cheney. She was on one of the Sunday shows. You know, last week the president had that rally, and the crowd was yelling, send her back. And that's what the media was talking about all last week, and the Sunday shows talked about it this weekend. She sat down with Margaret Brennan, and Margaret says, her question to Liz Cheney was this: why doesn't the president say non-white Americans are just as American as anyone else? This is how Liz Cheney responded.
I think the news media really wants to make this about race. You just did it. This isn't about race. These members of the House of Representatives fundamentally believe in policies that are dangerous for this nation. And as Republicans, we are going to fight against those, even if the mainstream media accuses us of racism when we do that. And I know you guys don't want to. You don't want to focus on the fact that there are substantive differences. You also don't want to focus on the... But I let you ask me the question. I think the news media, you included, ought to cover the substance. And I think it is outrageous for you to say the president doesn't talk about substance.
She was relentless, a total takedown.
Yeah, I was so proud of Liz Cheney. I thought it was brilliant. And I want to point out something. Ryan Saavedra of Daily Wire pointed out that when Margaret Brenner interviewed yesterday Adam Schiff, he was interrupted 0 times. When Cory Booker was interviewed, he was interrupted once. Margaret Brennan interrupted Liz Cheney 12 times. It's again a reminder that the media does not play fair when it comes to Republicans, conservatives, and people who support Trump. And that was as evident as it could be on that interview yesterday.
Well, Governor, what Liz Cheney's point was regarding what has been said over the last week or so is the president has policy differences with the squad. It's nothing personal. It's not racist.
It's not racist. No, it's about open borders. It's about socialism. It's about giving away free stuff that we can't afford and really would hurt the country. It's about the kind of job-killing initiatives that they want to do, like just creating a mandatory minimum wage that will cost a lot of people their jobs, even while some of the people pushing it don't even pay that wage to their own employees, like Bernie Sanders. Oops. So, yes, it's about policy. And when the media tries to say it's about race or color, they're dishonest, disingenuous, and utterly wrong.
They saw a 2-hour speech and were upset about 13 move out. Truman had to move out for a while, I think.
And he did, because they rebuilt it completely from the ground up.
Okay, good morning. Happy Monday. It's 8 o'clock here on the East Coast. It was hot.
But getting far less attention was another visit by Democrat lawmakers on the same day to the exact same location. Members of the Bipartisan Problem Solvers Caucus, led by Minnesota Democrat Dean Phillips. He witnessed the horrible conditions created by this crisis, but he saw a very different picture when it comes to those battling on the front lines.
We also saw beautiful examples of humanity expressed by agents and officers at the border itself, in the facilities. Yes, we have a problem, but we have to at least acknowledge the thousands of hardworking men and women that are working under the most difficult conditions and doing so with grace.
Schumer also mentioned chaos that happened just a few miles away from where he was touring. Nearly 50 migrants rushing Border Patrol agents on the Far International Bridge. Nevertheless, President Trump says he's eager to sit down with them, tweeting this last night. Based on the comments made by Senator Schumer, he must have seen how dangerous and bad for our country the border is. It is not a manufactured crisis, as the fake news media and their Democrat partners tried to portray. He said he wants to meet. I will set up a meeting ASAP. No word, guys, on when that might happen, but this comes, by the way, as Mexico avoids a tariff threat deadline today after demonstrating significant progress in helping us stem the surge of migrants.
That's what we just heard from Mike Pompeo. Yes. All right, thank you very much, Griff. It was good to hear the Congressman Phillips give props to the men and women of the Border Patrol who are doing an extraordinary job down there during this crisis. But Griff was right. You know, the border crisis is in the eye of the beholders. Republicans see one set of problems and things they would like to fix it. Better border security, where a number of Democrats see it as a humanitarian problem, and particularly with the family separation.
Yeah, we did interview Mike Pompeo earlier in the show, and he was talking about meeting with the leader in El Salvador. That leader has said, look, we don't want your money, America. It would be tacky for us to ask for that money.
They want the money.
But our president has said he's not going to give them the money, because we're giving them money and they're not using it the way that he wants them to use it, because those folks are fleeing their country instead of using that money to improve their government.
And for those who say, well, things are so bad in Central America, what else can they do? If you look at the numbers, they're not. Guatemala, where there's going to be about 250,000 Guatemalans who are going to come here this year by the year's end. Do you know their economy's growing at 2.4%? Do you know their employment's low? The homicide rate's been cut in half. What's happening is, since 2015, with these asylum laws passed, the word gets out, grab a kid and you can get in. So they're making a choice. I'm going to go try for a better life, not desperate to leave for a better life.
Right.
They could have been doing this at any point.
When Mike Pompeo was with us, he went down the litany of the problems and then said, look, there is a solution. It involves that building with the dome in Washington, D.C. Watch.
We need Congress to change the laws so that we don't have to release people here into the United States. This is crazy stuff. No country does that. I travel all across the world. No country has a set of laws, and Congress needs to, that are like the ones here in the United States, and Congress needs to change them. But I've often found when American people demand things, when there is a real crisis, I think both parties can see that there is this real crisis along our southern border. We have to keep it secure. I was in El Salvador, where MS-13 is headquartered. We watch drug trafficking. We watch young girls being trafficked across the border. I think Democrats now have come to understand this is a real crisis, and I hope people from all across the political spectrum will join to resolve this problem.
So with so many issues out there, from what is happening at the border to the crisis in Iran, we're at the point we haven't really been since the 1980s, where war could be just around the corner. It's amazing how people were focused on one speech and one chant yesterday, if you watch all the Sunday shows.
You're talking about the rally last week. The president had that rally in North Carolina, and he spoke for more than an hour and a half. The crowd starts yelling, "Send her back," for a few seconds, and the media focuses on that.
Right. And the president said, I think it was on Thursday, he said he did not care for that particular comment. And, you know, he had said throughout the week after his original go back tweet earlier in the week, he said, you know, if you don't like America, leave. But when you look at the media coverage of what the president has said, has tweeted, and had in the speech, and the reaction from the crowd, there was a common theme. Watch this.
Raw, racist politics. It's a tactic Trump has deployed so many times before.
It's good to know that racism means that you're incredibly patriotic in 2019 America.
Why doesn't the president, as a matter of principle, say unequivocally that non-white Americans are just as American as anyone else?
We have to start calling his supporters racist as well. This is division. This is pure racism.
And Rick Santorum would go on to say the president would be just as critical. It doesn't matter their gender or their heritage. His point is what they say as freshmen and as a squad, he believes, is detrimental to the country. But their color and their gender don't figure into it. And he was blistered on that panel for saying that.
Well, conservatives don't believe it's about race. And that's what Liz Cheney, that's what her message was yesterday on one of the Sunday shows. She sat down with Margaret Brennan, and Margaret asked her 6 minutes worth of questions about that very issue. Listen to how Liz Cheney responded.
I think the news media really wants to make this about race. You just did it. This isn't about race. It's not about gender. It's not about religion. These members of the House of Representatives fundamentally believe in policies that are dangerous for this nation. And as Republicans, we are going to fight against those, even if the mainstream media accuses us of racism when we do that. I know you guys don't want to. You don't want to focus on the fact that there are substantive differences. You also don't want to focus on the... But I let you ask me the question. This is about
that's
policy,
all the president is talking about. He's not talking about
true.
policy.
The president every single day talks about policy. Every single day,
or loving our country?
Single day, this president talks about the tremendous economic growth that we have seen since he's been in office, the tremendous job growth, the tremendous
capable of
decline
loving
in unemployment.
Our country has nothing to do with jobs.
You are making my point. I think the news media, you included, ought to cover the substance, and I think it is outrageous for you to say the president doesn't talk about substance.
We had Mike Huckabee on with us in the last half hour. He agreed with Liz Cheney and called out the double standard he sees with his own two eyes.
I was so proud of Liz Cheney. I thought it was brilliant. And I want to point out something. Ryan Saavedra of Daily Wire pointed out that when Margaret Brenner interviewed yesterday Adam Schiff, he was interrupted 0 times. When then Cory Booker was interviewed, he was interrupted once. Margaret Brennan interrupted Liz Cheney 12 times. It's again a reminder that the media does not play fair when it comes to Republicans, conservatives, and people who support Trump. And that was as evident as it could be on that interview yesterday.
One other thing that Liz Cheney said, she said the chance, absolutely wrong, should not have happened.
Right. At the end, he goes, well, because you went too long, we can't talk about Iran. Liz Cheney's like, well, why didn't you ask me that question earlier? She would have loved to talk about Iran. She grew up in a house that talked nonstop about international issues.
Well, her whole point was we need to focus on policy. We're going to continue, she said, Republicans are going to continue to focus on substance and policy, and we'll continue to do that. If y'all want to do the race card and continue that narrative, that's fine, but we're going to stick to policy. And then at the end, Margaret said, we ran out of time to talk about Iran. And she said, that's what I'm talking about. That's a policy issue. We should have spent more time talking about that.
All right. Yesterday, there was time for an induction ceremony, the newest class into Cooperstown at the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. The greatest reliever ever, Mariano Rivera, was voted in unanimously. Nobody could say he did not belong. And his speech, typically moving, very, very humble. Listen.
I wanted to start this thanking my good Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, for giving me the talent and the blessing and open doors that I could never close and no man can close. To all my coaches, all my managers, all my teammates, man, you guys are special. I cannot do it without you guys. To the fans, you guys always push me to the best. Without your support, I cannot do it. I'm so humble and blessed to receive this incredible honor. God bless you all, and I love you. Thank you.
What a beautiful message. What a good guy.
Yeah, and he was selected for Cooperstown unanimously. Never happened before, but he is that great, the greatest of all time, 13 times an All-Star. So on this same day that he is inducted into the Hall of Fame over the weekend, the Daily Beast came out with something that painted quite a different picture.
Yeah, Robert Silverman, first he tweeted this, Mariano Rivera will enter the MLB Hall of Fame today. He's also spent the last 3 years serving at the pleasure of a racist president, cozying up to apoplectic, bigoted loons and doing propaganda on behalf of the apartheid state.
Well, that was a tweet. And then there was this passage in the Daily Beast where he talks about Mario. He says he's also served at the pleasure of a racist president, taken part in thinly veiled propaganda on behalf of a far-right government in Israel, gotten chummy with outright bigots and apoplectic loons. None of this will be inscribed on his Hall of Fame plaque. It should, even if much of the sports world would very much like to pretend none of it exists. The Hall of Famer's actions make it clear his sympathies lie with the Trump administration.
Well, a couple of things. Number one, he's not active in conservative or liberal politics that I know of. I don't see him really in anything. I think he probably knows, like, almost all Yankees, Donald Trump, because like Rudy Giuliani, he goes to as many games as possible. He's great friends with George Steinbrenner through the years. Number two,
he's been to some White House events.
Yeah, and he's also very pro-Israel. So he's also he's part of the president's opioid council because, get this, he doesn't want people addicted to opioids, and he wants to get people who are addicted off them. How dare he? And if he's pro-Israel, that's a bad thing suddenly in this country?
Well, I've heard him speak before. I don't think he's really that political either. I think his message is more of a Christian standpoint, loving everybody, looking at everyone as God's child. He might not have voted the way some folks do, but that doesn't mean he's a bad person. So for them to write this long article on him, he's one of the greatest baseball players. Kids look up to him. He's not afraid to talk about his faith. He has a beautiful family. He has a wonderful story. Came from Panama City. Dad was a fisherman. He was discovered for his baseball and what a great player he is. I mean, he is a hero to all these little kids.
Well, we asked you what you made of this particular Daily Beast article, given his record. And Steve tweeted out, the news couldn't show enough of the foul language from Rapinoe and felt like they had to demonize a humble, kind-spoken person like Rivera for not being liberal enough. Right. This is not how news is to be reported, and they should be penalized for this shameful behavior, Steve tweets.
Carol says this, I'm a Red Sox fan. Mariano Rivera was never a welcome sight. After the Red Sox beat the Yankees in 07 and then win the World Series, The Yankees and Rivera returned to Fenway during the ring ceremony. He was a class act when introduced. We love him.
Oh,
Wow.
Sweet. Bill tweeted this out. Definitely not Yankees fan, definitely Mario Rivera fan. Even more so now.
Right.
Wonderful.
And Jillian, my point with him is even though he had so much success, he had some like titanic losses in the World Series and against the Red Sox. And he was the same guy.
Yeah.
How you act when you lose really defines the character in which you.
Absolutely, 100%. You are right on that. All right, guys, good morning. We do have some serious news to get to, starting with this Fox News alert. Iranian officials claim they've arrested 17 Iranian nationals recruited by the CIA to spy on the country's nuclear sites. Some of them have already been sentenced to death. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo joined us earlier, blasting Iran.
Understand that the Iranian regime has a long history of lying. They lied about where they shot down the American UAV. They've now lied in the last few days about where they took down this tanker. It's part of the nature of the Ayatollah to lie to the world.
The U.S. has increased military presence in the Persian Gulf after provocative measures by Tehran, including downing a U.S. drone and seizing a British oil tanker. Turning now to extreme weather. Today, states could see flash flooding and damaging winds as a cold front is expected to push through the Midwest and Northeast. Strong winds possibly to blame for this crane collapsing on an apartment building in New Jersey. No injuries are reported there. The cold front is expected to end a dangerous heat wave linked to 6 deaths. It's also blamed for a major power outage affecting thousands in New York City. A police officer gets called for a noise complaint, but quickly becomes the life of the party. Check it out. The officer hopping on a mechanical bull at a birthday party in Kilgore, Texas. The police department posted the video on Facebook, and as you can imagine, it has gone viral. People like to see the police officers having fun, you know, with the community members.
Absolutely.
I know that he was called for a noise complaint,
I know.
and he joins them on the party.
Yahoo. All right.
All right, thank
Jillian.
you. Well, AOC has a plan to investigate the president's border policies.
Unlike what we're seeing with these extreme ideas from the hard
The
left.
president was encouraged that Senator Schumer went down and saw how bad it was front and center. And he's hoping, he reached out to him via social media. Let's go meet. What do you think will happen?
Well, like I said, I'm glad the Democrats and Chuck Schumer finally see there is a crisis at the border. They need to come to the table now and work with us to solve it. Until we change these laws that incentivize, right now, the way the laws are written, it incentivizes trafficking of children. We cannot return them safely to Central America. If an adult shows up with a kid, whether it's their kid or not, they know they're going to be let go in 20 days. So my bill with Senator Graham closes the loopholes, allows us to keep them while they have due process, and send them back safely to stop this incentive.
Have you worked to talk to Democrats to see if you can get the 60 necessary? And do you believe if you could make it, the Democrats get a win too in this, that it would be something that'll pass?
We are happy to sit down. We have been talking to them. We're looking for ways to bring them on board. If you just look at the facts, this is a very narrow solution to stop the incentive for the dangerous journey, and we're open to their ideas. Senator Graham and I have both said that. Come to the table. Let's fix this crisis, stop the crazy, dangerous rhetoric, and the humanitarian crisis, which is really being exacerbated by their lack of action on this, the Democrats.
And by the way, it should not be political, but right now you're in, Senator Johnson, you're a Republican, said yesterday, we're in full catch and release. And real quick, what is the situation in Arizona right now?
We're seeing that in Arizona. As you know, the mayor of Yuma declared a state of emergency. He and I have been talking a lot through this whole process. They're basically just releasing people into the streets, into the communities, and then they're on their way through Tucson, Phoenix, and on to a community near you, never to show up for any court dates.
And real quick, for your political future, you're taking on an Astra, Mark Kelly. So what is your thoughts?
Well, he's taking on me, first
Taking
of
on
all.
you. So what are your thoughts? What does it mean for the party for you to be
You know what? Arizona is the firewall state for the direction of our country. We are ground zero to make sure that we keep the Senate majority and we stop this dangerous hard left turn towards socialism, government, run health care, open borders policy. These measures are extreme, and we are ground zero to make sure that we stop that from happening.
All right.
Steve, it's an incredible story. I've had the great fortune to actually film these crocodiles
over a 20-year period. My very first series, my second episode, was at the Turkey Hill Power Plant, and it's remarkable. The water there, as it runs through the rivulets behind this power plant, is a little bit warmer, so it provides sanctuary during the relatively cooler months of winter in Florida. It's all protected with great security. So this creature, Steve and Ainsley, that was once on the verge of extinction, now numbers to over 2,000, largely because of this power plant where they find sanctuary. But it has nothing to do with radiation. It's just all about the security and comfort.
Jeff, sell me on this. Why is that a good thing? I am terrified of crocodiles and alligators. Why do we need them?
Oh, well, they're so critical to the ecosystems where they live. We know that these environments are much healthier when they have their apex predators in. And really, unless you're a turtle or a fish or a marine creature, you're not in jeopardy from a crocodile for the most part. They are huge. This is our only crocodile species in North America. They get nearly 18 feet long, but they primarily live in marine or estuarian brackish type ecosystems. More salty than fresh is where they thrive.
Jeff, let's also talk about the Cape Cod area, which you're very familiar with. You got a house up there. So over the weekend, this family is out fishing, and somebody's taken some video with their cell phone off the back of the boat. And as they're fishing and they're bringing the bait fish in, a great white apparently jumps out of the water, grabs the bait, and it made quite an image.
Oh my gosh, I fell out of bed. I'm in Bermuda right now filming shipwrecks, and I thought it was remarkable. I live not far from there, and when I watched that, it's making me think twice to go dive for lobsters when I get home this afternoon. You know what? Great whites are increasing. Now, I got to tell you, that was probably a juvenile or young great white. It looks really big to us, but this is a shark, Stephen Ainsley, that can push up to 15, 16 feet plus in length. That was probably a 7 or 8 foot animal, maybe a little bit larger. That striped bass that kid was reeling in, that was like a little surface plug for that great white. What a show it put on. But the truth is, the great white population is exploding off the northeast coastline.
Why?
Largely because of the increase of prey. We've had a dramatic explosion of gray seals and harbor seals, which is the primary target animal that these animals hunt. So more prey means more great white sharks.
All right, so Jeff, sell me on the great white. Why are they important?
Well, here's what I'm going to tell you. Ainsley, do you like the ocean? Do you like to swim?
I love to swim, but I prefer the water to be clear.
So I'm going to give you something that will comfort you. On all the days of your life, every time you've been in the salt water off the coast of New Jersey, New York, Massachusetts, no matter where you are in the world, you're never more than 100 yards away from a shark. Doesn't that make you feel better?
Yeah, nice.
Okay, now you just scared the living daylights
Thanks,
out of
Jeff.
everybody watching. Who knew that?
But at least they're not all that big, though, right?
And they're not
all great whites.
And they're not out to
No,
get
they're not
us.
all great white. There are many, many different types of sharks in the world. They've been on our planet for over 300 million years. We've got almost 400 different species. Great whites are of course, the great giant of these sharks. But typically, it's incredibly rare to have conflict with the shark. We've only, tragically, but fortunately, we've only had one.
Start with Sergeant Kevin Miller, who received that chair. You know, his dream was, I want to go hunting with my 6-year-old son. I can't go out into the woods right now because
prior to their injury. The chair tonight will be because of the contributions and generosity of Fox employees throughout the entire Fox Corporation. And it's so fitting that you're here today to see
service members, and you can see they're truly affected by it on stage, standing there with them. They're absorbing that USA chant and feeling the gratitude of a nation. It's really cool.
So it's the FGL tour, not the Jones Beach. It's FGL that's involved.
It's FGL. Yeah, Jones Beach on Long Island back in your hood was a great venue, but FGL's the one doing it in partnership with the Independence Fund. And if you still want to give, you can go to independencefund.org. You can also text HERO to 52,000. Text HERO to 52,000. $10 donated to the Independence Fund. It goes straight to track chairs to help these guys, which truly changes their lives.
100%.
It's a great partnership.
I remember going to their concert a few years ago here in Times Square, and it was a small venue. Look at the crowd now. It's
yeah.
been fun to watch them grow.
They're
as a
the real
band.
deal. The
They
real
are.
deal.
They are. I'm proud of them for giving back.
Yeah, and what did it feel like to be on stage out there?
It's the closest I'll ever be to being a rock star. Right. And I was off to the side in the shadows. Because in that moment, he's the real star. I mean, in that moment, he steps forward. His wife came up later on as well. And it was amazing to see the reaction of the crowd. And as I said, the lead singers just step back. You fade back and you take in the moment. So that'll be my last time on stage.
Yeah, my daughter Caitlin was in the crowd. See if I can see her. Oh,
Really?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah, she was there.
And
The whole family's big FGL fans.
They're awesome.
What did she say about it? The track chair?
She actually loved the whole thing. She especially loved the fact that we went to FGL House, and ever since we went in Nashville and saw their restaurant, she's been obsessed with the group.
They play at every show during the song Dirt, which is they pause the song in the middle, bring the vet out, and then finish the song with the vet on stage.
And you know
All
one thing,
great
it's
experience.
unofficial, but I don't think they've ever worn sleeves on stage.
Why would you?
Right? I know. I mean, if you have
You're a
drugs
rock
like
star.
that,
Sleeves?
don't wear sleeves.
Never.
Absolutely.
You would love that,
Plus
Mr.
it's
Tattoo Man now.
Well, you know, I got to wear short sleeve. I want to wear that on the couch. They won't let me.
One of the questions I got over the weekend is how many tattoos does Pete Hegseth have?
Well, what?
I don't know. How
You
many?
don't know?
How
I think
many?
8, maybe 9.
Oh, you don't know?
I don't even
8 or
know.
9?
I'm losing track. I got many more on schedule.
It's not double digits. That's
Not
the headline.
yet. Not yet.
Are you sober when you get them?
Not always. Mostly. The decision is made sober, but then you deal with. I'm just kidding. No,
All right, Pete, thank you very much for doing double duty over the weekend.
You got it. My pleasure.
That really went off the rails quick. All right, the world's biggest air show now underway in Wisconsin.
You're taking a look at Jeff Block from our sister network, Fox Business, skydiving at that show.
Jumping out of a perfectly good airplane, but that's now not the only thing he's up to. He joins us now live in Oshkosh with more on his crazy adventure. Jeff?
What was I thinking, folks? I don't know. This is the biggest air show in the world, so you do crazy things sometimes. I've got Tater Boudreau. You train the future of American air power.
That's my day job, yes, sir. I'm at Luke Air Force Base flying F-16s. And then on the side, on the weekends, I like to fly this little thing, Wild Blue.
This is something called Wild Blue. Walk around and just to give you some indication of what this is. You know, we've been to the air show so many times. Last year, in addition to jumping out, as you point out, of a perfectly good aircraft, we also flew with the Sky Typers. These are our guys that sky right. And I was up in that one too. You're inspiring the future. You train the next generation of U.S. Air Force pilots.
That's correct. And then in this airplane, we also like to inspire the rest of the universe.
Younger kids.
Absolutely, yeah. The performance that we do in this airplane, it's a 180 horsepower airplane, but we show people to live and dream without boundaries. So we go and we treat this like a fighter jet.
I'll tell you. Go ahead and jump in. We're gonna. I've got this parachute on because, and this time I hope I'm not going to have to use the parachute because this is not designed for that. But we're just about to take off in this, so I'm going to have to say goodbye as we jump in and get ready for our flight. Wish you were here. Look, I tell you. Look, can you see out there? Go ahead, show them that. There
Very
are
nice.
100,000 aircraft out here. It's incredible. We'll also be flying this one later. To the right there, Chris. Go to your right. There you go. We're going to be on that one later too. That's a T-28.
Right.
And
Beautiful. I think someone's getting Grubhub.
It's quite a day.
All right. Thank you very much, Jeff Block.
Is that what's happening?
Off he goes into the wild blue yonder. All right. Very nice.
Thanks, Jeff. Okay, Janice is outside talking to some of the folks out there, and she has your forecast for you. Hey, Janice.
Look at all of the wonderful people that came on Monday for Fox and Friends. North Dakota loves Fox News. We've got the Houston Astros here. We've got an anniversary here. What's your name?
Vicky.
Where are you from?
Allentown, Pennsylvania.
And how many years?
50.
What is the secret to a good marriage?
Just listen.
Listen.
And I laugh at everything he says.
Listening and laughing. I love it. And by the way, thank you so much for coming down here. It's amazing. We love you all. Let's take a look at the maps real quick. So it was hot this weekend. Things are starting to break. Can you feel that cooler air moving in? Isn't it nice? So the temperatures are definitely going down, but with the cold front, we could see the potential for some stronger thunderstorms, maybe some wind reports, maybe some hail, and some definite flooding in some of those areas that you see in green and red. That's where we have flash flooding occurring. That's what's happening with that cold front. And there's your highs today, so not too bad in New York City. Still warm across the southeast, but cooler temperatures definitely across the northern plains. Ian, I want you to look at all of these amazing people that came to see us on Fox and Friends on on a Monday. We love you so much. We love you so much. Thank you for coming. Yay. Say hi to Steve. Say hi to Steve, Ainsley, and Brian.
Hey, everybody.
Say hi to Gary.
All right. Very nice. Thanks, JD. Meanwhile, Joe Biden name-dropping the former president on the campaign trail.
I did a report for President Obama before we left. I was vice president. One of the reasons I was